Okay, let's see what we are going to see today. And we have some codes, calculation codes and functions updates in our NextGen software. Then we will take a look at the news on the NextGen website, where we have some new features. We will take a look at the results or most relevant results of our 2021 survey, and we have time for questions and answers session. As you may already notice by the email I sent you this morning, we have some issues with the chat within Microsoft Teams. So if you don't have a microphone and you want to make any question, please write an email to helpdesk at sant'ambrogio.it. And of course, you can always raise your hand during the session, and feel free to pose your questions. Otherwise, we will hear from you at the end of the meeting. Okay, the first thing we are going to talk about is the updated codes. And during the last year, we introduced updates to the ASME Division 1 and Division 2. They both are being updated to the 2021 version. Then we updated the EN 13445 to the 2021 issue 1 and the EN 13480 to the issue 2 of 2017. You may already know about this, but we introduced an option inside NextGen to let you manage the active calculation codes. So if the list of the calculation codes is getting too long for you and you are seeing not relevant calculation codes active, then you can shorten your list by going to Tools, Options, and Codes. And from there, you can disable some calculation codes, the older one, for instance, and then you won't see them inside the list of active calculation codes. Of course, you are always able to open old files that are made for said calculation code. So don't worry if you disable, for instance, the old editions of ASME or EN, and you can do that by going to Tools, Options, and Codes. Okay, as for the user interface new stuff that we introduced recently, we have now NextGen that runs completely at 64 bits. This is a bit technical, on the technical side of the things, but the thing that matters the most is that we have much better memory management in NextGen. So you should notice less unexpected closure of the software, and also a more stable experience through the day in case you open and work on several files, print a lot of reports, or open and close different files. So in that case, the software should be noticeably more stable. And as for the file management part, we introduced a completely new revised project browser. The project browser for us is the window that manages the files that you work on with NextGen. So we received a lot of feedback on this area during the survey, and also during the ask for supports that you make to us. And then we decided to rebuild from the ground up this window and its functions. This is now more user-friendly, more in line with what you already have in Windows, and should be also more pleasurable to work with. And let's see now that in NextGen. So I fire up my NextGen. So we can take a look to how it appears. Okay, we have this new completely revised window. If you need help about that, you have a contextual help here that opens our website and guides you through all the most relevant functions of this window. But what I want to say to you today is that you still have the working folder as previously and the recent files. And what we introduce is this new favorite projects. You can right-click on any folder and make it favorite, and then that folder appears here. So here in the favorite projects, you may want to keep the projects you're working on during your daily work. And then we can, of course, have access to a lot of functions via right-click. So, for instance, we can locate the files on the Windows Explorer. And we have this toolbar here that groups all the functions that we previously have here and there in the window. You also have access to the advanced functions. For instance, if you want to show the backups of a file, you can click on the file that you want to the backups and then show backups, and it opens the folder where your backups are stored. And what else? You can make items read-only if you want to protect them. For instance, you finish a project, you want to freeze that item. You can make it read-only with just a click. You can protect it from unwanted overwrites. We then introduce this newsfeed that can be disabled if your screen is a bit small, but from here you can have access to our website, and from here you can have a list of the most recent technical articles and also news. For instance, this is the news talking about today's meeting, and also the most recent technical articles, and the backlog is down here. So I think we made decent work with this rework of the window. We also added more subtle improvements, like, for instance, if I copy an item from Windows, maybe a colleague send me an item, I can copy, and then from here I can just paste inside the project, and I have it right here. So previously we had this import function that was a little bit cumbersome, but now it's more straightforward. So let's switch back to our presentation. Okay, as for the European norms, so German EN and Italian codes, we expanded the materials database. We usually improve the material database every iteration of NextGen. So if you need materials, you can ask us to introduce them, and we see if they are available as a standard, we can introduce them. In this case, we added a bunch of materials, and we extended the ball torque calculation for standard flanges to 82,000 and VSR. The calculation of the ball torque is made according to ASME PCC1. And we extended a function that was previously available only for WRC, and which is the local loads transportation for EN 13445 plus 16 local loads. So what does it mean? It means that now if you have local loads on nozzles or attachments made according to the EN code, now you can transport these actions to the base of your support. Let's see it in action to better clarify what it means. And here is the file. So we have a file here, which is quite simple, a vertical vessel on legs, and let's see from here. In the nozzle, I can go through local loads. This is, you can see from here, this is an EN13445 project. And I have defined local loads on this nozzle. As you can see from the legs report, we go through the foundation loads. Okay, we have here, we have 0 forces and moments values coming from the local loads. We can now make a change to our nozzle, go through local loads, and decide that we want to consider these local loads for the vessel support calculation in the following load combination. I want to consider these local loads only for the operating condition, but of course we can select another condition or all conditions. I click OK. Now I can recheck my legs. And first of all, I have now an overstress on the legs. This is because previously we weren't considering the action of the local loads on the legs, and now we have explicitly said to NextGen to consider this load. Of course, if we print the calculation report and go again to foundation loads, we can see that the loads are transported all the way through to the support, and now are considered and make the leg unstable. So this is a nice addition. It was previously available only for WRC, and it's still available, of course. And now it is extended to the EN local loads. Okay, as for the Italian code, just a quick check on this. That may not be very relevant to you, but anyway, we added the flange face corrosion, so a different field to define a corrosion that acts only on the face of the flange, other than the usual corrosion allowance that acts on the inside diameter of the flange. And we added structural analysis, so for tall vertical vessels, we can make an analysis according to the Eurocodes. As for the EN 13445, we updated, of course, the code to the latest version, as I explained earlier on. Then we extended the standard pipes available. We included the EN 10 to 17, both the dimensions of the tubes and pipes, and also the calculation of the corrosion of the under tolerance according to this code. That is quite different from other codes that we already have. And then finally, the most relevant addition is the ability to print equations in both symbolic and numeric format. This is something that we are gradually introducing in the software. It was previously available only on the Italian code. Now we have extended it also to the European code. Let's see how it works. And close here. Okay, this is our vessel, and if I go through tools, options, and reporting, I can see here that I can print the numeric equations. Let's see it without numeric equations. I print the main shell report, and we have the usual calculation report that has our symbolic equations with the symbols of all the parameters involved in the calculation. Let's make a quick screenshot for later comparison. Okay, this is our report as it stands now. Okay, I can now switch on the numeric equations, Here you have a quick help about the function. Click Save and again print the calculation report. Okay, now you see that along with the symbolic equations that we had earlier on, like this one, we also have another equation that plugs the numbers inside the equation. So you can use this function to check the numbers, or if the customers ask for a more extensive calculation report, maybe because they are coming from different software other than NextGen that also has this feature. I need to add that this at this stage this function is may take a bit to produce your calculation report, especially on long reports like 100 or 200 pages. You may notice a slower creation of the calculation report. So my suggestion here is to enable it once you need it. For instance, if you need to check the numbers or if you need to create the final calculation report. Keep in mind that also, like every report option, it can be also enabled on a per item basis. So you may want to enable it only for certain items and keep disabled for other items. Okay, let's go back to our PowerPoint. As for the German code, AD2000, we added support for titanium, and we introduced VD2 230 materials. And we also made a change to the safety factor, and that can be now customized by the user. So let's see it in action so we can understand what does it mean. Let's open the AD example. Okay, we have a cylinder here, and we are using AD2000 code. Let's open it and see what's happening. Okay, we have an error for a calculation of minimum required thickness, and we have already selected a material that is a titanium alloy. I can go to the database, and I want to filter only the titanium and titanium alloys, and this is the list of materials that we have here. I can select a material with the higher mechanical properties. Let's see if this works. Okay, this works. And so we have made the cylinder stable. And again, we can edit the material properties and customize the allowable safety factor, both in design condition and test conditions. Just for reference, let's see these parameters as they are now. Okay, we have 1.5, 1.5 as safety factors. And of course, the design is satisfied. I want to put a very high safety factor just for the sake of example, let's say 5 and 7. And immediately, of course, we have the calculation that is not satisfied. And if we print the calculation report, we now have errors in both hydrostatic test and internal pressure, and the safety factor is printed as 5 and 7. So this is quite required quite often by our customers. So surprisingly, because the AD2000 is quite explicit on the safety factor to be used, but nevertheless we added this option so you have more freedom in terms of safety factors in the German code. Okay, let's move to ASME. Again, we of course updated the division 1 and 2 to the 2021 edition of the BPVC. We added this feature starting from when we were still in 2021, so later autumn 2021, and it was quietly requested by our customers. And then we recently updated the PTB test cases for the Division 1 to PTB for 2021. So the Division 1 has been updated in terms of test cases by ASME, while we are still waiting for Division 2 to be published. As soon as they publish, of course, we will review our test cases and update them to the latest available version. One thing I want to mention, because I noticed while preparing this presentation that we still have PTB4 2013 as label here, but if you use these test cases, they are updated to the latest version. And from the next version of NextGen, the label will be updated to 2021. Then we added the manufacturer data report creation. That is another quite often asked feature from our customers. And so you have now the ability to create an Excel report that is the EU1 form for ASME. Then we also extended the ability to print equation in numeric format, like we already have seen for EN 13445, also in ASME Division 1 and 2. We extended the lining support, cladding, web overlay to all the relevant components. We were missing a couple of components earlier on. Now all the components that can have cladding or web overlay are supported. This is only for Division 1. And then we added the ability to select how to calculate the spherical radius for ellipsoidal heads when calculating the saddles. This was source of some problems for our customers because the calculation of the spherical radius was quite conservative earlier on. Then we added a switch to use the inside diameter of the elliptical head as its radius. So in this case, it's an option that you have to make your calculation more stable and a little bit less conservative. Let's see it in action in NextGen. So first of all, I want to open an heat exchanger. And I need to halt the presentation here, otherwise you won't see the effect of me exporting the U1 form. So this is an heat exchanger, U-tubes with standard properties defined.
Yok parmağım. Tamam.
Sorry, can you please turn off your microphone? Thanks. And okay, now I want to create my ASME data report. I can click the ASME data report button here and then select where I want to save, let's say on the desktop. Save. Okay, Excel opens and the software writes all the relevant data. I need to zoom in a bit because it's very small. So you have all these data coming from NextGen that are already filled for you. And then, of course, you can fill all the missing information and have your forms for instance, U-stamp. And in any case, you need the U1, U4, U5 forms. NextGen now helps you creating them. This is as for the manufacturer data report. Let's also see the option for the saddles. So if you have made heat exchanger or vessel on saddles with ellipsoidal heads, you may have encountered this problem. So you have your saddle that is not validated. And what happens here is that the head acts as a stiffener, but the norm is not very clear about how you calculate the head radius for the elliptical head. It's quite straightforward for torus spherical heads and spherical heads, but we have this gray area for elliptical heads. So previously we adopted the calculation according to the formulae available in ASME, division 2, 4, 3, 25, or table UG 37 in division 1, but we noticed that this is overly conservative, and you often end up with an instability in your calculation. So if you have agreed with your authorized inspector or client, you may decide to use the head inside diameter to calculate the elliptical head radius. So you can enable this option, and now the design is satisfied. We are still waiting from ASME to clarify this. We have written an inquiry to them. So after we have an answer from them, maybe we can again recheck this option. But in this moment, you have this option available for you. Okay, let's see where we are. We have seen the ASME demo. And we move to supports and WRC. You can now consider WRC when calculating an opening maximum allowable pressure. What it means. The calculation codes, especially ASME, say that we need to consider all the loads acting on a nozzle to determine its opening maximum allowable pressure. But until now, we consider only the internal pressure action. Now we have extended the NextGen to also consider the local loads acting to the on the nozzle, and therefore you may have a lower maximum allowable pressure because, of course, of the combined action of both pressure and external loads. Let's see it in action again. Save this. And we have local loads. Okay, let's see what we have here. It's a nozzle, and with the definition of WRC loads. Okay, we have defined a set of local loads, and it's okay. I want to see what are the maximum pressure for these components. And I have them here. Let's make a screenshot again. Okay, so we have this maximum pressure, especially I want you to notice the opening pressure of 1.82 megapascal. Close it. This is the default behavior that you have from NextGen up until now. And if you want, you can go through File Item Properties under Loads, and you can check this option, consider WRC calculation for external loads on nozzles when determining the maximum allowable pressure of all openings. Okay, I enable it. I recalculate my nozzle. Okay, still satisfied. And if I print the calculation report and again check what are the maximum allowable pressures, I see now that the maximum pressure has dropped from our previously 1.82 to 1.56. This is because, of course, we have the combined action of the internal pressure with the external loads that are reducing the capability of our opening. Okay, let's close this and see what else we have. Okay, everything else, we have pressure and stresses that up until now were both printed in the same unit of measure. They are now split in two, and you can have different units for pressure and stresses. This is especially helpful if you are working with the bar for the pressure, because it's not very beautiful to have bar when expressing a stress. So you can now have this option in the calculation report options. And also the calculation notes are now more prominent at the beginning of the report. So if you add a calculation note to any component, it is now printed as the first section on top of the component report. This is more prominent and more visible to those who are reading your report. So if you are making some consideration and you want to communicate something to who is reading, now you can add the note, and it doesn't go to the as the last thing on the report, but it's moved to the first thing. And here you can see how we have the internal pressure printed in megapascal, and then the stresses in Newton over a square millimeter. And just to make it clear, we can open a file here. And again, the option is in your report options. And if you go in under units, you can now see that the units are split in two, and then they work independently, both for metric and customary. So you can have this separation of units in your calculations. As for the rest, it is now possible to have zero contribute from the shell when calculating openings. So you can set the contribute of the shell to zero if you want to load everything onto the nozzle. We have added a visual clue for design condition of a radii on a component. What does it mean? It means that if you have we have an example down here. If you have general conditions that are set to, let's say, 200 degrees, and you change the temperature only on one component, this also applies to pressure, corrosion allowance, and everything that is under the design condition. You have now this little triangle that reminds you that you are using on this component a value that is different from the overall settings that you made for the item. We have updated the calculation of bolt torque with PCC1 Appendix J and joint approach. So you have more options when calculating the bolt torque now. The heat exchangers backing rings can be now calculated as flanges, and previously they were an idle component, so they didn't have any calculation. Now you can calculate them as flanges. And we have added on all the components that you can model in NextGen the ability to define a customized center of gravity. So you can change under the weights section of your component. You can set the center of gravity for all the components with different options. We have added custom parameters for wind and system calculation when you are using Eurocodes with national annexes. National annexes can have some customization in terms of parameters. Now you can specify them under the item properties, under wind and seism. And we also have added a visual clue. This is a small addition, but a nice addition. Visual clue for attachments where local loads are active, like here in the image, or maybe you have already noticed in the previous demos. Let's see how it's from here. So we can enable and disable this and see where the nozzle or attachments have a WRC calculation or local loads enabled. This is useful if you have more nozzles and only add local loads calculation on part of them. Okay, we have added the ability to import data for gaskets from gasketdata.org. This is for EN 1591 that needs very detailed data for gaskets. Now you can select gasket directly from gasket data, where all the manufacturer of gaskets publish their data sheets. So this is quite helpful if you are working with this European norm. We have added rectangular flanges according to PD 55,000 and for all codes. So in case you need a rectangular flange, a welding neck flange, you may use this code, and you have the ability to add it to your model in NextGen. This is only for the desktop view, so you have to define an additional component without the 3D user interface and select the rectangular flange. And finally, we have added the 3D model for the half pipe, as you can see from here, that was a bit strange before these latest versions. Now the half pipe is attached to the head. Okay, I don't know if you have any question about what we have seen up until now. So if you have, just raise your hand or just open your mic and ask your questions. Otherwise, we can move on to other things like what we have added to our support website. Okay, since there are no questions, I move on.
Matteo, we have received some questions by email.
Okay.
And I can answer them.
Okay.
I can answer them directly. The first one is how can I recalculate all components if there was a measure change? So in this case, the best option is to click exactly on that button. So when you are going to print the report, the software always recalculate everything to be sure that the final report includes all the changes. So you can now close and click on cancel. And in this case, all the components are recalculated. Every time you print the final report, everything is always recalculated. The second question is how can I create adjust or control the tube area for WT? This is not clear exactly. So if maybe later we can turn on the microphones and get more details on this question. The third and the last one is austenitic materials should be found with the material number. This is already available. If you click on the materials database, you can type in the search field, for example, 1.4311. You see that the list is filtered by material number, which is the last column on the right. So this is already available. Okay, we don't have other questions right now, so we can move on.
Okay, thank you, Sergio.
Welcome.
So As I was saying, we are going to change the way that we distribute our license updates, especially the hardware license updates. Now you usually receive, when you update your license, an email from us with a link to download your license update. Now you will still receive an email from us, but the email will ask you to go to your customer area on our website and download that from there. This will be very helpful because if you don't apply your update as soon as you receive the email, usually that email gets lost. Maybe you have to contact your IT department, and then when you really need it because the support is expired, then you won't find it in your emails, and it gets a bit messy to update your software. Now, every time you need it, you can go to your customer area, and you will find all the license updates made for you for the latest version or previous versions of NextGen. And also from here, you will be able to download the validation of our software, test cases, everything that may be helpful for you and your company to have a better experience in terms of files exchange between us and you. So I invite you to visit nextgen.sant'ambrogio.it and create an account there. The account is usually enabled in a few hours because we need to pair your account with your company and your license. Then you receive an email from us that says that the account is ready, and then you can log in and already see from your in the shared files we recently published here files, and you see that you already can download the validation for the version 2022 of our software. So you don't have to ask every time you need something. You can just go there and download from there. What else? We have sent you a survey a few months ago in autumn 2021, asking you the status of your relationship with us and with NextGen, and we received some feedback from you. And I want to address some of these feedbacks. For instance, the numbers in equations was something that has been asked, and as I showed you, is now available in both EN and ASME codes. You asked us to have a set of materials, but this function, although is a bit hidden, is already available since previous version of NextGen. So you can go through materials, set of materials, and then define set of materials. So let's see it in action. From here, tools, materials, set of materials. You can define. You already find some of the sets that we pre-made for you, and then you can also define your own sets from here. So you can create all the sets that you want with materials that work well together. And then when you create a new item, misclicked. Okay. When you create a new item, both vessel or heat exchanger, let's say division 1, you have the ability to select to use a default set of materials. You enable the option from here, and you find here all the sets that you saw defined in the previous window. When you select one of these sets and you start creating, let's see, yes. You start creating components on your item. For instance, I add a cylinder. then you see that since I selected the carbon steel set, now the plate material is already defined, and this goes on for all the other components. Like for instance, if you add a flange, it takes the forging material that you defined in that set, and so on. This is quite helpful if you want to speed up a bit the process of creating new items. Let's see what else we have. You asked to add the process nozzles in the heat exchanger wizard. This gets asked from time to time, so we are thinking about that, at least for the process nozzle inlets and outlets. Maybe you will find in one of our upcoming versions. This is something that our customers that use the STEMEC program from us already have seen, and now we are thinking about adding it to NextGen 2. And as for heat exchanger baffles, they will be introduced. We want to introduce them to be considered in terms of weight, and so expect it again in our upcoming versions. Manual MDMT will add this option. You will find it under the edit button. So when you select a material for a component and you click edit, you will find here the option to user define an MDMT for said material. What else? Externally reinforced rectangular vessel. They are coming in version 2023. They are already in the pipeline. So we will complete all the sketches available in ASME. I think it's Appendix 13. We now have only the internally reinforced rectangular vessels. We will expand with the externally reinforced ones. And as for other things that are asked from time to time, like legs according to MOS, cost estimation, import of external 3D models, transportation calculation, cloud licenses, other calculation codes like GHOST or PD 5500. We are periodically reviewing these features, and as soon as we have a decent amount of requests from our customers, and we are confident that they can have traction with our customers, then we decide to implement them. So feel free to send us feedback in this area if you need something, not only if you have a problem with the program, but also if you wish that something that is relevant for your activity, you want it added to NextGen, feel free to ask. Maybe we can't add it in only a couple of weeks, but in the long term, we collect a list of all the clients that are asking for something, and then again, when we review our features list, see what feature is getting a lot of requests, then we decide to add it to our pipeline. So just send us your requests.